It is often said, you won't know where you're going until you know where you came from. This statement cannot be more true than for somebody who grew up in a diaspora. I had a friend who told me, have you ever been to the Congo? I said, no, why? She's like, I just went to my country for the first time. She was Ghanaian. And I feel complete now for doing that. I was like, what do you mean? She said, there's something about going back to where you came from that makes your life have a meaning. Because we sometimes walk around, not know what we're doing, not know how we feel, because we have not had the experience or the journey of going back home. And sometimes going back home can be a geographical location, or it can be looking at your family history, or it can be self-evaluation. But for somebody who grew up in a diaspora, like me, I understood what she meant. As a Congolese girl, I've always been in tune with my Congoleseness. But lately, I have been feeling like, I may not be that much. I may not be the same type of level of Congoleseness as I pride myself to be. And that is an interesting thought to think about, because I've never been to the Congo. My Congolese identity was created through my parents, was created through learning history. And sometimes, especially for us Africans, our history are sometimes told in a different cultural perspective. So what I can read on Google may not be the actual truth, because the person who's writing that may be a researcher, maybe somebody who has never lived in the Congo. And sometimes I'll read things and then I'll ask my parents about certain events. And you can see the story, it's the same story, but it's being told in a different perspective. And anyone who grew up in the diaspora, regardless of what country you're from, or regardless your immigrant story, you understand that. Sometimes we read of a place and we're like, damn, I'll never go there. Or sometimes people, and I always feel this thing when I tell people I'm African and I'm proud to be African, and I walk with my head held high, and I realize that some people will be like, why did she do that? Why? I thought Africans were supposed to be poor. I thought Africans were supposed to be beggars. Why? What is she like? Why does the way she behaves does not go along with what we know of Africa? You know, because if you're coming from a poor place, there's a certain image of you. So when you don't resemble that image, people ask questions. And that's very interesting. And for somebody who's grew up in the diaspora, it is a tale of less time. That's why in this episode, I wanted to go back home. Not in a physical sense, but I wanted to start this journey by going back to recount Congolese history in a way that is multicultural, in the way that resembles my journey as a person, my journey as a multicultural kid, and in the way that situates my identity negotiation to help me understand and to help you understand and compare with your own histories or with your own stories. So welcome to Growing Up Congolese, where in this episode, we talk about Congolese history. When it comes to history, especially African history, there's just a lot that we do not know. There's a lot of missing links. There's a lot of gaps. Even as Africans, we get our knowledge of ourselves from European perspective. So in this episode, I'm gonna kind of cover what is known out there, the folk tales that I've heard from my elders, my Congolese elders about Congolese history, and I will try to situate my life within this complex and complicated history. So let's begin by talking about the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So before it was called the Democratic Republic of the Congo has had several names. But we also gonna start with Kingdom Kongo. And Congo was spelled Kongo, Congo, as we'll pronounce in Lingala. We'll pronounce it Congo. And it was first settled by Central Africans 90,000 years ago around the Congo Basin or the Congo River, the mouth of the Congo River. And our Christopher Columbus is called Diego Cao. He was the first European from Portugal that discovered the Congo Basin, the Congo River, which separates the Republic of Congo and the present day known as the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The Democratic Republic of the Congo, or the Congo as it is preferably known, is the largest country in sub-Saharan Africa and the second largest in Africa after Algeria. It is rich in natural resources, one of the richest countries in natural resources. I believe in 2016 it was rated the richest. It was rated at to be valued at $26 trillion when it comes to natural resources. With all of its riches, it's still one of the poorest countries in the world. When you look at your phones, your computers, the electric cars that we are thinking about purchasing and spending billions and billions of dollars to build and implement, the materials come from the Congo. It is immense in biodiversity. 60% of the Congo is the equatorial forest. So 60% of the Congo is basically nature. It's basically hills, volcano. We have a volcano, Virunga. Yes. And the Congo Basin is the largest rainforest, the second largest rainforest after the Amazon. The Congo is 63 years old this year, 2023. It gained its independence from Belgium on June 30th, 1960. We're going to mention that a little bit more, but let's just go through some facts about the Congo. It is estimated to have 112 million people. It is the most populous francophone country in the world. And outside of France, French is widely spoken in the Congo. It is surrounded by 9 African countries. So Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Congo, Angola, and Uganda. Although it is 63 years old, it only had 5 presidents. Kasavumbu, who was the first, Mobutu, who reigned for 33 years, Kabila, the first Kabila, the father, Kabila, the son, and then now Tshisekedi. The Congo has 5. First of all, the official language is French, of course, but it has 5 national languages. Outside of French, there's Lingala, Kikongo, Swahili, and Chiluba. 95% of the population are Christians. 2.6% of the population practice traditional faith. 1.5% are Muslim, and the other are not affiliated with any religion. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of the history of the Congo or its inhabitants or the people who live there are hypothesized based on languages. There's a lot of vagueness, there's a lot of missing links. However, we know that the Kingdom Kongo had a lot of rulers. Within the territory, there was Kingdom Kongo, there was the Luanda kingdoms, who ruled in the 16th and 1700. Yeah. So let's talk about what most African countries' history start with, and that is colonization. So the Democratic Republic of the Congo was colonized by Belgium. In 1885, the Congo became a private property for King Leopold II of Belgium until 1908. Some articles say he founded the Congo, and other articles say he inherited it from European countries. The National Geographic states that he established the Congo Free State by brutally seizing it. So, depending on who you believe, that's that, right? So I think people sort of like distinguish colonization when it became a property of the Belgian state. So they kind of separate when it was a private property of Leopold versus when it became the property of the Belgian state. So that means that the Congo colonization period was actually higher than what most people think. So it started in 1885 when King Leopold was in charge, when King Leopold made the Congo his private property. I remember when I was in college, we were talking about Congolese colonization history, and they started from 1908 when it became under the rule of the Belgian government. So, and it wasn't until I did my master's in Belgium, where I asked the question to my professor, and my Belgian professor said no, the dialogue in that space have changed, where they consider the time where Leopold used the Congo as his private territory as part of the colonial history from to Belgium towards the Congo. And so that was sort of like, that's the new change in the Congolese colonial history discourse. So under his rule, millions of Congolese died brutally. He was known as one of the ruthless colonizer of his time. There's pictures of kids having their hand chopped, their feet chopped. He was a very brutal dictator. He was so brutal that people in Belgium protest against his rule of the Congo. And since he was going into debt as well, that's when he had to relinquish the Congo to the Belgian government. But before he even went to debt, he made a lot of millions from the Congo. And one of the materials that they used to produce under his reign was rubber, which made him a lot of money. The Congo so while Leopold was in charge, it was called the Congo Free State. And under the rule of the Belgian government, it became to be known as Belgian Congo. In Belgian Congo, although there was less brutality, the Belgians were not friendly with the Congolese. The discourse of colonization in Africa and everywhere else has always been they went there to spread Christianity. They went there to spread the good word. They went there to save people from their savagery. They went there to save them from themselves. So the white savior complex has started centuries ago. So even today in Belgium, when I lived there 2 years ago, while we're studying post-colonialism, I had my Belgian counterpart really not know what the big deal about colonization was, because under the Belgian government, the colonial history is usually disguised as we were in the Congo to bring salvation, we were in the Congo to bring Jesus Christ. And even though there wasn't brutality like there was under King Leopold's reign, there was still injustice. Apartheid was happening everywhere. It's not just in South Africa. Whites were still superior. There were acts of um, of brutality. Policy were not in favor of black people. Black people were still considered inferior. Blacks and white could not mix. Mixed race children were taken away from their Congolese mothers. Fathers, Belgian fathers, some of them did not, most of them did not claim their children. We're going to talk about that one day because I was actually hoping to do my PhD on the lost generation of Belgium, which are the mixed race children from the colonial periods who were quote unquote kidnapped. Some were given willingly, but under false pretense. They were sent to Belgium. They lived in Belgium their whole lives without Belgian citizenship. So I wanted to look at their identity construction in a space where their existence was not allowed. So if you read Trevor Noah's book, you know where I'm going with this. So yeah. So it is always important, and this is something that Congolese people, our forefathers, our grandparents, our great grandparents would like to stress in us when they recount Congolese history is that Congolese people are fighters. So even under the rule of Leopold, they fought. There were thousands and thousands of rebellion. There is a story of Bakanja. Bakanja was a Congolese man who who was told that he needed to believe in Jesus, and which is which is told from the Congolese perspective, of course. He refused, and he was being beaten by the Belgians to believe in Jesus. And he was like, "How are you teaching me your Lord, telling me that your Lord is about love and care and everything, but look at how you guys are behaving in in our land. How can you convince us of the love of Christ when you are not showing us love?" So Bakanja is one of those Congolese figures that was very notable when it comes to revolution and rebellion. I learned this history when I was in Belgium during my master's, where Congolese people did burn Belgians missionary in a church that was established by the missionary as a way to protest. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just giving you facts about Congolese history here. One thing about Congolese people or African in general, we're very prideful, and we don't like to be seen as victims. We are not victims. Whenever I heard history being recounted by Africans or from my Congolese elders, it was never framed as, "Oh, they did this to us and we stayed down." It was always like, "No, we used to fight, we used to fight." That's always been the tone. Like, because one thing that about Congolese, one thing about African is we are not beggars. We're not victims. We will always showcase our strength. And for me as a kid, learning about African history or learning about Congolese history, it was important, and and when I'm thinking about it now, I never saw myself as a victim because my people never recounted our story as if we were victims. It was always, we fought back. We fought for this. We fought for that. I lived in West Africa. I lived in Benin, where thousands of slaves were shipped to the Americas. And same thing about being in a Benin school and listening to Benin history, and our teacher telling us like, "Hey, there was rebellion. We fought back." King Beyonce, which kind of sounds like Beyonce, but Beyonce, he wrote to the Portuguese king about, "Hey, this is what you're doing. This is wrong. This is now like, part of the deal or whatever he wrote about. But there's always that notion of like, we fought back. We are not victim. We are fighters. We don't stay down. We fight. And now that I'm looking at it, that's the attitude that I've always carried with me. I've never looked at Africans, especially Congolese, as people who are victims. I always look at it as we were in an unfortunate situation, but we fought back. We lost some battles, but we won some as well. So that's something that is so important that I've carried with me in my Congolese identity until today. So those are just the basic facts that I can give you about Congolese and Congolese culture. But let me just give you some personal anecdotes. Somebody asked me, what is it like to grow up Congolese? Oh my God, where do I start? Growing up Congolese is the funniest, craziest, interesting experience that anyone. First of all, growing up African is unique. Is unique. Growing up black is unique. So you put black, you put African, you put Congolese in, you mix all of that. Oh, you are gonna have some shenanigans, basically. I grew up speaking. I grew up listening to four native languages, plus French and English, so that make it six. I always knew that we were the best at everything. You can ask any African kid, they would tell you, your parents, even the one who did not go to school, when they would tell you, they'd be like, when I was young, I used to be number one. And you're like, fool, you didn't go to school. You're illiterate. What are you talking about? Education is so important in African identity, and in Congolese is no exception. So when I was a kid, there was never idea that I would drop out of school or I would not go to college. That was something that was sort of like innate. It's sort of innate in our culture. It's sort of innate in our discourse that education is important. And of course, it was instilled in us by Europeans, but we have owned it. Sometimes people ask me, oh yeah, but Africans are black too, but how come Africans do better than other people? And I'm just like, because Africans are coming from a culture, and even and this is not a dig at any minority group here, but even in black history, American black history, there is this idea of like, hey, the way to move forward is through education. Yes, white people can not go to school and start businesses, can be dropouts like, the Apple like inventor and Bill Gates or whatnot, but black people are not afforded that that grace to be dropouts and still be billionaires, unless you are the Jay-Z, the Madam C.J. Walker, and all of that. So it has been installed in our cultural identity that the way we go forward is through education. And not just because education is valuable, but because knowledge is valuable. I remember my mother having this conversation with me. It's like, listen, if you lose money now, or you lose anything, you lose your home, you lose your car or whatever, that's fine. You can lose that, but you can never lose knowledge, because with knowledge will help you get all of those things back. But without knowledge, you are screwed. So that has always been the mentality of African. That has always been the mentality of black people. That has always been the mentality of Congolese. So so if there's one thing about our Congolese identity, is that we are very big on it, on education, and that's why we are one of like we're the biggest francophone countries, because education in the Congo is French. So to be seen as a proper civilized person in the Congo, you have to speak French. You have to be educated, and for you to be able to speak French is to be educated. Even the schools and villagers speak French. So yeah, when it comes to our diversity, we are one of the most diverse. Like I think I've mentioned that before. We're one of the most diverse countries in Africa and in the world, with 500 ethnic group, 246 Bantu languages, and they are different. Please don't call them dialect; it's offensive. They are different. Swahili is very different than Lingala. Chiluba is very different than Kikongo. So I come from two different tribes. My mother is Swahili and my father is Luba. So that means my native languages are Swahili and Chiluba. Lingala is the language that not all Congolese people speak, but most people in the capital city speak outside of French. So to kind of like compare it to the United States, imagine if in DC people spoke English, but in the Northeast people spoke Chinese. In the Southwest people spoke Spanish and all that. So we all speak English, but then different regions speak different languages. So although Lingala the is not my native language per se because I am not a Ngala person. Lingala belongs to the Ngala people. Because both of my parents from the capital city, Kinshasa, and Lingala is widely spoken in Kinshasa outside of French, then then I speak Lingala as well. However, not every Congolese speak Lingala because Lingala does not belong to every Congolese ethnic group. So different ethnic groups have their own languages. So being Swahili and Luba, my native language would be Swahili and Chiluba. Chiluba is a language that Luba people speak. Swahili is the language that Swahili people speak. And within the Swahili group, there's different Swahili ethnic group because it also depends on your region and your geographical location. So my mother is from Katanga, and there's Swahili from the east of Congo, which sounds a little bit different as well. There's Swahili in other parts of the Congo that sounds a little bit different, but we understand each other. So within the Swahili group, there are small Swahili dialects. However, not every language in African or in the Congo are dialects. They are actually languages that they're highly different from one another. Swahili is not the same as Lingala. Lingala is not the same as Chiluba. Chiluba is not the same as Kikongo. And the four main languages, which is Lingala, Swahili, Chiluba, Kikongo, are actually based by the biggest region, if that makes sense. Whew, that was a lot of information. The other thing about the Congo that we should notice is like we're really big in art. Our music and our art is very important to us. I learned so much about our history through our music and through our art. It's something that we pride ourselves in. Our music is what, we have the Kofi Olomide, the Fali Pupa Afere, we have Héritier, we have Maître Gims, even though he's more, he has a more French pop sound, but he is Congolese. So Congolese music has been sort of like the sound, like it has been known as the sound of Africa. It has been from the first music from the first popular song that we had, which is Independence Cha Cha. We started it in the Congo, but it became the song for other African countries as they were fighting for their independence. One of our founding father, the father of democracy in the Congo, is Patrice Lumumba, who was assassinated by the Belgians. I don't know if I should call it a fun fact, but last year, Belgium decided to give us his tooth back. I don't know where they kept it. I don't know if it's actually his tooth, but yeah, that's what they decided to do. And right now, the Congo has been in a very interesting position because with the talks of reparation and with the knowledge of what actually happened during colonization, the new produced knowledge that we are learning, Belgium has been offering peace offerings, if I can call them that, or they recognized what they did in the Congo was wrong. I don't think they have apologized yet, but having the king talk about it and go to Africa, give some of our arts back, has been an effort from the Belgian government to kind of recognize its impact and influence in the Congo. Yeah, it was interesting for me to be a Congolese person with an American nationality in Belgium, studying development post-colonialism and looking at sort of like identity construction within the diaspora, since I am from the diaspora. So that was very interesting. But yeah, Congolese history is full of hurt. But if you ask a Congolese person, they will tell you, in a nutshell, Congolese are fighters. Congolese don't stay down. They laugh the loudest. They love hard. They're crazy most of the time. And half of the things that come out of our mouth is, if there was translation for the stuff that we say, we will be canceled as a country. So yeah, that's what I know about my history and how and that's how I find myself within the ambiguities, diversity, and history of the Congo. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you later. Bye.